Hey, how's it going, you guys? I don't know what was that. All right, anyways. Hey, how's it going, you guys? This is Spideydico64 back here once again with yet another Star Wars review. And ladies and gentlemen, we are here to finally talk about The Mandalorian Season 3. Yeah, it's been a long time since the last season of The Mandalorian was released. All the way back in December of 2020. Wow. A lot of time has passed ever since then. Sorry about that. All right, but anyways, yeah. A lot of time has passed ever since Mando Season 2. Ever since that finale of Luke Skywalker coming in and basically just taking Baby Yoda or Grogu, or whatever the hell you want to call him, and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, finally Mando Season 3 is out. The first episode is out currently on Disney+. So spoilers for this episode. So you've been warned. Let's get into it. And actually, before we do talk about Mando Season 3, Chapter 17, I kind of want to talk about the in-between between the seasons of The Mandalorian. What happened in between the release of Mando Season 2 and now the release of Mando Season 3. So, in that time span, we have received not one, not two, but three live-action Star Wars Disney Plus shows. Of course, that being the Book of Boba Fett, which is pretty much a Mando's Season 2.5. And, if you see my review on the Book of Boba Fett, you would know that it was not, I didn't outright hated it. However, though, the show has many issues that really needs to be addressed. Like, for example, how the show just really made Boba Fett lame. But the Book of Boba Fett also had a very incompetent director, Robert Rodriguez, who was one of the showrunners and all that sort of stuff. One moment he can put something really good, but then the next minute he can put something really bad. I'm talking about Spy Kids, Shark Boy and Lava Girl, and We Can Be Heroes, his kids movies. That level of bad. And also, the show was just also so confusing as well, because it was a Boba Fett show. It had Boba Fett in it, but then it had the Mandalorian in it. And this show was just so dysfunctional and honestly really ruins how Mando's story and Grogu's story has been going so far. It really has, I honestly really do think that the Book of Boba Fett really did derail the story. So that's really why I needed to really address the Book of Boba Fett. And then now let's just briefly glimpse over Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan Kenobi, the grand return of Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen as their characters from the prequel trilogy. And the general consensus was, that show was pretty hated. And all that sort of stuff. Personally, for me, I didn't mind the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. I actually liked it, though I do have issues with it. Part of the issues for me was, first of all, just the characterization of Obi-Wan Kenobi, and just also kind of how they portrayed, like I said, some certain characters. And this also just comes back to just a statement just saying Disney just really does not know how to handle legacy characters, or the people that they get don't really know how to handle legacy characters and all that sort of stuff. I mean, hell, even Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, did not do a really great job. It's like, I don't know. I don't know if I can blame the writing of it. Maybe I can, some of the writing is to blame for, but the direction too. Like, hell, for example, which I blame mostly Robert Rodriguez for handling Boba Fett very poorly. Deborah Chow didn't really do that great of a job doing Obi-Wan Kenobi and all that sort of stuff. Hell, I personally, in my opinion, I feel like that the show should have got like Bryce Dallas Howard to be a showrunner. I hope to God Bryce Dallas Howard does get to have her own Star Wars show. Hell, if you honestly ask me, if they ever do consider doing another Obi-Wan Kenobi series, they should get Bryce Dallas Howard, because she honestly really has shown that this woman knows Star Wars. She knows what the hell she's doing. And honestly, this then now comes into Andor. Andor changed Star Wars. It really did. It had great acting, great dialogue, and it had amazing set design, and it just also was just so different. And that's really why I liked Andor. Now, personally, in my opinion, I still prefer Mando, just because, well, Mando really does feel a lot like Star Wars. A little bit more like the Star Wars I prefer, than Andor, really, and all that sort of stuff. But I've been talking about this stuff way too long. Let's not talk about Mando Season 3, Chapter 17. So, in this episode right here, Mando reunites with the Armorer. Of course, if you need a reminder as to what happened to Mando before, to basically recap. And also, this is something I'm also just going to talk about here, and that is, so has been revealed that there has been a 2-year gap between Mando Season 2, the finale, and then the events of the Book of Boba Fett. 2 years. So Grogu has been off training with Luke for 2 years. That's just lazy. That is super lazy. That is super lazy, my guy. Why? This doesn't make any sense. It felt more like they were split apart for I don't know, maybe for a couple months, maybe not too much, but 2 years. It really does feel like a cop out. They're trying to, or I don't know was going on through their minds. What did they saw the criticisms of this, of Mando and Grogu being reunited way too early, which once again, the Book of Boba Fett just ruins everything. My God, I don't know. So anyways, let's just get into, so yeah, basically, Mando and Grogu have both been reunited. Grogu has had a bit of training from Luke Skywalker. Din Djarin now wants to redeem himself, to be a part of the Children of the Watch once again. And hell, he even saves some members of the Children of the Watch from being eaten by a giant alligator in the first opening half. However, though, the armor does not approve. She, of course, is a traditionalist. Mandalorians do not remove their helmets. And Din Djarin says, okay, if I need to redeem myself, what can I do? And basically, the only thing he can do to redeem himself is to go down into the mines of Mandalore and to bathe into the waters or something like that. Basically, he needs to go down there, and then therefore he will be redeemed. However, though, the big problem here is that basically Mandalore is basically a deserted planet. Also a planet that has also apparently been poisoned, or the atmosphere is very toxic because of the bombing that we saw in the Book of Boba Fett, where we saw the TIE fighters basically nuking. The Empire basically nuked Mandalore. And there is some radiation there. However, though, Mando was able to prove that, wait, hold on a minute, it may not be true, because he had he had a piece of glass from Mandalore recently to prove that, hey, maybe the planet is actually inhabitable. And I think I actually have to assume that makes sense, because, it's actually really, if you have to think about this, in the timeline where this is set, it's basically been 10 years ever since Sabine gave Bo-Katan the Darksaber, and ever since the Empire went ahead and basically bombed, Mandalore, which we have to assume is before A New Hope. I know that continuity, this is going to confuse people. Hey, honestly, this makes more sense than my math class. But anyways, though, going back to this whole thing, so yeah, Din Djarin gets approval from the armor, saying this is the way. Love that line. This is the way. However, though, before Mando goes off to Mandalore, he pays a little visit to Navarro. Now, actually, what's kind of funny here is that the 2-year time gap makes actually a lot of sense for Navarro, since Navarro has actually changed a lot in the last couple of years. It was this really rugged basically a very ghetto-looking village, and all that sort of stuff. But now it's very lively and all that sort of stuff, and whatnot, sort of have you, which is pretty cool. Greef Karga and Mando reunite with one another, and basically Din is basically here to see if he can get IG-11 back up and running again. Now, if you need a reminder about who IG-11 is, IG-11 was the assassin droid that was with Mando in the very first episode, that then got reprogrammed by Queel to basically become a nursing droid, and IG-11 sacrificed himself so Din, Greef Karga, Grogu, and the other person, we'll get to her in a bit. Basically, they're there, IG-11 sacrificed himself so the rest of them can live and all that sort of stuff. Very admirable from a droid and all that sort of stuff. An assassin droid, no less. And I have a problem with this. Why are we bringing back IG-11? He served his purpose, and now, hey, look, I liked IG-11, but it doesn't make sense why they would want to bring him back. Or it just doesn't make any sense to me. He literally served his purpose, and all that sort of stuff. And really, why this didn't really need IG-11? Couldn't he get another assassin droid? Well, to be fair, it was explained in the episode that, pretty much I think the assassin droids, the IG series, I think is discontinued in the time of the Mandalorian, which, I mean, I don't know. I just don't like it when they just bring back characters from the dead and... I remember. They did that with Palpatine. God, I hate that movie. But anyways, going back to this whole episode here. Yeah, Din and, of course, Greef Karga. Well, before Mando goes on and talks about trying to bring IG-11 back from the dead, there are these pirates that, once were associates of Greef Karga. And basically, the pirates in this whole entire episode represents basically what's going on in Din's life right now. How basically the story is all connects one another, and I'll explain that here in a bit. Basically, the pirates want to go into a saloon that is now a school, where basically the bounty guild business was once run, and all that sort of stuff. However, though, Greef Karga basically tells them, hey, this is not the place anymore. This isn't a place to do that anymore. It's a lively town. It's a town that's prosperous. It's a town that's being progressive towards a brighter future. However, the pirates are just there living and sticking in the past and all that sort of stuff. And, while Greef Karga is this magistrate and all that sort of stuff, however, though, he's still a gunslinger and is able to, disarm the pirate. I think it's a weak way pirate. I get confused with the weak ways, and there's another species I get them confused with, but Din also helps him out by taking out several other weak way pirates and all that sort of stuff that was behind him. And then basically after that, they then run off. And what then happens there is that now Mando's trying to get IG-11 back up and running and all that sort of stuff. He gets him back up running. However, though, he basically activates like it's a scene straight out of the Terminator. You remember how in the end, basically, when Reese puts the detonator into the endoskeleton of the T-101, and it basically blows up, and then it's just the lower half of his torso. And then he was just trying to kill him and all that sort of, and it was trying to kill Sarah Connor, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, that basically happens here. However, though, the protocol droid takes the statue of Greef Karga and puts it and has it crushed IG-11 in the head. So, wow, damn, that was actually pretty crazy. And so, yeah, basically now Din pretty much needs a new memory chip for him. And he tries to get some help from some little guys. Remember... Damn, sorry about that. Y'all remember The Rise of Skywalker? Because I certainly do not. However, though, a certain species from that movie, from a certain character, is in the show. Babu Frick's species appears in The Mandalorian, Season 3. Now, I briefly just kind of want to just say this, and that is, however much I give the sequel trilogy crap, which honestly it deserves, I honestly personally don't mind seeing species that were introduced in those set of movies appear in other Star Wars projects. The same thing goes for other planets here too, and all that sort of stuff. Like, personally, I wouldn't mind if in a later story, basically, maybe let's just say Mando goes off to maybe Jakku, or maybe even Hazian Prime. Like, I don't mind that there are sequel trilogy planets or even species that were introduced there being used in other Star Wars projects. I don't mind that. Personally, honestly, for me, it also really does connect the sequel trilogy with other Star Wars projects, because really kind of thinking about this, while I don't like the show, while I don't like those particular movies, I don't want to see it retconned or anything like that, and all that sort of stuff, personally. I don't know, I do like it when a whole bunch of other Star Wars whole lot of other themes and elements from various different Star Wars shows appear in one show. Because, Mando ties in the prequels, the original trilogy, and the sequels, and all that sort of stuff, and I think that's really cool. So yeah, basically, Boba Frick species, I forget what they're called, are trying to fix up IAG-11, however, though Grogu wants to give him a big old hug. Very cute. I like Grogu. I like Grogu a lot. So basically, Din now needs to get that memory chip, and so he goes off. He just goes off. I don't know where he's going to go to now. He's trying to teach Grogu how to basically pilot or how to navigate through the N-1 starfighter. However, though, the pirates in their own fighters are coming in to stop him. And it's a really pretty cool dogfight scene in the space and all that sort of stuff. Pretty cool. Really straight out of the original trilogy. Pretty cool. That's one thing that I'm actually really excited for, is the space battles. Because we did not see that really much in the first 2 seasons of The Mandalorian. Even in the Book of Boba Fett and also Obi-Wan Kenobi. We did see a bit of that in Andor, but I don't count that really all that too much. But yeah, it is pretty cool to see that. And so basically what happens here at the end of the episode, and that is Mando goes off to, I forget the name of the planet, but it's a planet in the Mandalorian system that is the home world to clan Kryze and all that sort of stuff. If you know what the Kryze are, that's the family or the house that Bo-Katan comes from. And also, that actually is something that that was used in other Star Wars projects. Sabine's her clan, Clan Ren, had their own little planet and had their own little base and all that sort of stuff. And it's pretty cool to see all the houses have their own planets in the Mandalore system. Hell, even I think, actually I kind of need to know, what was the home planet for House Vizsla? That was probably Mandalore itself. But anyways, yeah, so basically, Din Djarin pays a little visit to Bo-Katan. Bo-Katan's pretty freaking pissed. What happens here is that basically Bo-Katan once again, here's the thing, is that really Bo-Katan is a very shady character. I really do have to say that. A very shady character. She basically when Din walks up to her, basically, she is pretty pissed off because, because pretty much what happened between the time of Mando season 2 and 3 was that basically after getting Moff Gideon's Lightspeed cruiser, basically the other Mandalorians that were with her basically did not wish to follow her anymore because, she doesn't have the Darksaber. Din has the Darksaber. Of course, yeah, Moff Gideon manipulated both Din and Bo-Katan, and now Din has the Darksaber. And while, Mando could give the Darksaber to Bo-Katan, however, though, that's something that I don't think not many other Mandalorians would approve of. That was a big mistake the last time, with Sabine and Bo-Katan now. And hell, basically, Bo-Katan is still pretty bitter about that and all that sort of stuff. And once again, she is a very shady character. We don't really know whose side she's on. She's certainly not on the side of good. She has her own agendas. So Mando really needs to keep an eye on her. And Mando basically tells her, yeah, I'm going to go off to Mandalore. And then Bo-Katan's just like, good luck, Good luck, you know, you're gonna die there. So yeah, very not many words of encouragement. So yeah, keep an eye out for Bo-Katan to see if she doesn't betray anyone. And also, quite frankly, she's talking about how Mandalorians are so divided and all that sort of stuff. She was part of that same terrorist organization that basically fucked over Mandalore back during the Clone Wars. And yeah, basically, oh yeah, that guy, or shit, what was his name? Uh, Pre Vizsla. Yeah, Pre Vizsla. Sorry. That guy Pre Vizsla, he's out there killing people, burning down houses and all that sort of stuff and whatnot, sort of have you. But that other guy, Darth Maul, a Sith that was a former Sith Lord, and all that sort of stuff, who basically won in rule combat. Basically, he played by the rules and all that sort of stuff. No outsider should ever rule Mandalore. God damn, she's a fucking hypocrite. Oh my god. So, there you go. That was Mando Season 3, Chapter 17. And overall, this was the weakest out of the 3 season premieres and all that sort of stuff. And really, it was just it's just basically just here to basically remind people, this is what Din and Grogu did. This is what they're doing now. Not really much progression of the plot and all that sort of stuff. And honestly, like I said before, the format of these shows was really screwed with the Book of Boba Fett. And hell, even people didn't even know you had to watch the Book of Boba Fett, which makes things even more confusing. However, though, it is still early days, so we'll see how the show progresses. I still think that we're going to have a really fun season. And I think this season is going to be a lot more like the first season. Very self-contained and also very, I guess we can say, not depending on fan service. Like, maybe we might get a big character here, but it's a character I hope that shows up in the show that maybe makes sense. I've also been hearing some rumors that possibly Boba Fett could appear in the show. We'll just have to wait and see. But but one other thing I do want to mention, and this is something I did forget. So, you know how I was talking about IG-11 rescuing Grogu, Mando, and Greef Karga, and the other person? Well, let's kind of talk a little bit here about Cara Dune. A little bit here, just to end off the episode. So they do explain as to why she is absent, why Cara Dune is absent. Now, in case if you don't know what happened to Cara Dune, here's just the gist of it. Gina Carano, during the time, and this was during 2020, a time when basically the country was at its most divided, basically because of the election, because of COVID, because of all that sort of stuff, and of course, after that, because of the Capitol riot. Hell, basically, Gina Carano, she was a very outspoken Republican. It was clear her political party was Republican, and she did make some, comments that, that weren't really as, harmful. However, though, she did have to receive some sensitivity training from, like, some people from Disney and all that sort of stuff. She said that in the Ben Shapiro, interview, which I actually recommend you go watch because it's very interesting. But also, the reason why she was let go of The Mandalorian was because, basically, of something that she did that was really dumb. And that was, basically, anti-Semitic comments about comparing Trump supporters to Jews during the Holocaust. And that ultimately got her, basically, released from her contract. And she's no longer part of the show. And ever since then, she's basically been a part of the Daily Wire, basically doing movies with Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire and all that sort of stuff. Basically, the Daily Wire and their shows basically is basically purely no identity politics, no SJW or whatever agenda, whatever the hell they want to call it. However, though, they do mention her in this episode, and basically, Greef Karga said that after she took in Moff Gideon, she's now part of a special forces. And I honestly really don't think, yeah, that's pretty much the end of Cara Dune. So I wanted to say that in the very first video about that. And once again, I'm just really just gonna say this right here. While I thought Cara Dune was a pretty cool character, she didn't really have much depth to her. However, though, like still to this day, what I think about about the whole situation was Gina really could have done better and really could have still been a part of Star Wars, but she clearly it really just showed that she didn't care much about Star Wars anymore. And honestly, her character is not a big loss. I honestly really do think that, maybe she's not really much of a character that was really needed. Really. So yeah, and all that sort of stuff. She was going to have her own show, but from what it looks like, that's pretty much scrapped, and it's going to be maybe replaced with Skeleton Crew. But yeah, though, guys, that's all for tonight. I'm just going to go hit the hay. Thank you all for watching, and we will see you next week when we talk about Chapter 18. See y'all then.